Yeah, baby. Hey, look, my green screen. What happened? Jesus. Oh my God, I feel naked and out of control. What do I do? Maybe if I hit this. Is that bringing it up? What's going on? It's not working. My green screen function is gone. Let's see if I go there. Nothing. Oh, there we go. Just needed a little push. Ah, there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show today. And I get off to a usual bumpy start. But isn't that expected on this Monday morning? And what a day we got planned. I got my Slim Fast already. Got to lose weight. How else could I get the beautiful ladies? I got to keep in good shape. Now, my guest today is an extremely beautiful lady who I know everybody said we had great chemistry, but she is spoken for, as all the good ones are. Skål! But that doesn't mean that she's not a sweetheart, and it doesn't mean that she is one of my favorite beer on the balcony guests ever. And she also defends me against my trolls on Twitter as they try and put me down. So, ladies and gentlemen, author of Rock Monster, a best-selling book, and I'm still waiting for my copy, but we're going to ask her about that. Please, everybody, welcome Kristin Casey to the show one more time. How are you, baby?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Great. You look great as usual.
Thanks.
You're in Texas, correct?
I am. I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, keep Austin weird.
Yeah, I'm doing my best.
Any luck with the new publisher?
Well, you know, I may stick with my original publisher, Rare Bird.
Okay.
I had a good experience. I know we talked about this last time. Sometimes little things go wrong here and there. I think you had more little things go wrong.
I had everything go wrong, but
yeah.
Tyson's a good guy. He's not a bad guy.
No, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. And go ahead.
No, he's a good guy. It's just that, like, when the book title was supposed to be easy for you to say, he comes out with the prototype cover, and it's easier said than done. And I'm like, Tyson, it's easy for you to say. Both are totally different.
Right. It's like my book, Rock Monster, coming out, Rock Lobster, like not completely nonsensical, just vaguely related. I would have been a little upset had that happened.
That didn't happen to you.
No, it did not happen. That's what it would be like, though. I mean, to get the title wrong is not good.
Yes.
It's kind of like publishing 101, but I don't know what. Yeah. Anyway, I had a good experience with him. Among many things that I loved about working with Tyson and Rare Bird is that a lot of publishers are not going to publish a first-time memoirist at 300 and whatever pages, like 365 pages or something like that was how long my book was. Yeah, it was 199,000 words or something, which is like 25% longer than your average first-time memoir. And Tyson flat out told me, stop cutting, stop editing. We don't want to lose anything great. And so I got to write the book, every word that I wanted to write, and they didn't cut anything that didn't need cutting. And that's super rare. And I feel incredibly lucky about that. And also he put every picture I sent him, he put in the book. I sent him 40 pictures. He put them all, and that costs money, putting pictures in a book, right? But with, what happened was when we first met in person, like I already had the book deal, and then I flew out to LA to meet him in person. And one of the last things I said at our lunch was, do you think you'd want to put pictures in the book? And he's like, yeah, we could see. We'll see when we get to that point, and he just never really committed. And so right before we went to printing, I started sending him these pictures. I'm like, hey, did you want to consider putting these in? Like, it was almost an afterthought. Like I'd been waiting for him to ask for him. And if I hadn't offered him, he might not have thought to ask. And as soon as I sent him all these pictures, he's like, oh my God, these are great. Hell yeah, we're putting all of these in the book. And he put them all in there. So, I just don't know if another publisher would have done that. So I may go with him again. Like we've been talking and he wants to publish it. but I'm in between agents right now. So the deal is that this has nothing to do with Tyson or Rarebird really, but in order to get an agent, if I already have a deal and that agent, the agent that I want of the 3 or 4 that I'm talking to would prefer that they have the chance to shop it around to maybe some like of the bigger publishers, because Tyson's more, mid-range, or he's one of the indie publishers.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not tiny by any means, but my agent might want to shop it around to some bigger publishers. And if I tell them I'm already locked down, then I might not get that agent.
No, I know.
And as a writer, you can't afford to do that. So basically, I'm just kind of on hold. And with the holidays coming up, and these agents have my manuscript. I don't even think they've had time to read it over yet. So nothing's going to happen until early next year. And then once I get an agent, I'll decide, if I'm going to just go with Tyson, or if they want to shop it around, then I'll do that. But I'm in a good position because my biggest quandary right now is, am I going to go with this agent or maybe another one? It's hard to get published. Most people don't have one offer, much less,
No, I know. And what is the title of the second book?
Right. The working title is Casey Dancer. My last name Casey, and the word dancer, because the period that I'm writing about is my 30s, and that was my moniker online. I was known as Casey Dancer because I went back to stripping at 38. Was I 38? 39.
Where did you strip, in Texas?
I've stripped for 14 years total over the span of my life, 5 in Austin to start. Then I moved in with Joe. Then when I broke up with Joe, I went to Vegas and I danced at the Crazy Horse 2 for 5 years there. And then when I was 30, I moved back to Austin, or 31 maybe. I moved back to Austin and got into real estate for most of my 30s. And then in my late 30s, I went back to stripping in Austin for another 4 years.
Is that hard? And I'm not, anything, Kristin, you're my friend and I love you. So if I ask you anything.
You can ask me anything.
Yeah, I know. But was that hard, especially the first time? Is it like even for me to be a substitute teacher or whatever, the first time you have the jitters, oh my God, I'm taking on this whole new world that I'm not accustomed to. Was it hard for you to just go, okay, time to get naked in front of a stranger?
Let me tell you, I was 18 years old and a very different person. It was literally the hardest thing I'd ever done, and quite possibly the hardest thing I've ever done in my life to this date. It was so hard. It was a nightmare. There was stripping turned out to be like my happy place and my best time. And I just, a job I'm still nostalgic for. I'll never not miss it. I would never go back to it, but I had some of the best times of my life there. But my first day stripping was just a shit show. It was a night. So I had just come off of meth addiction. So I'm super skinny. I'm 18. I hadn't even fully developed. I had my breasts, I had beautiful breasts, but but my hips hadn't even developed yet. Right. So I just go straight down, no hips at all. And so then I'm wearing this thong that I had bought ahead of time, because you had to have a thong. And back then they were a lot bigger than they are now. Right now they're like the size of a postage stamp, but back then they were like the size of the envelope, right? You had to have a lot covered. And so I had bought one, and it didn't fit me very well because I was so tiny, and then it wouldn't stay up on my hips. It kept sliding down because I had no hips to hold, because back then you didn't wear it. The elastic wasn't as good either. So you kind of had to wear it on your hips, and that's where it stayed, really high.
You tie a knot on it?
I mean, I eventually bought suspenders until when I was 19 or 20 and my hips finally filled out. But I bought these little sparkly suspenders that would hold my thong up. It was such a nightmare. So I go in there and I'm nervous as could be. I'm just shaking beyond belief. I didn't have a really good image of my body. I'd only been having sex for a couple of years. I just sort of assumed I didn't have a great body without really thinking about it much, because I kind of had low self-esteem in general.
Yeah,
I actually didn't have a bad body. I had a great body, but regardless,
isn't that the prerequisite though, Kristin? Sorry for interrupting.
Back then it was, yeah. Actually, back then it was.
Becoming a stripper, they usually have low self-esteem, right?
Oh no, it's self-esteem. You're asking about low self-esteem. No, it's not a prerequisite. No, God, no. But there are I know women, I know PhD candidates who are stripping to pay for their tuition. I know housewives and influence. These days, everybody, half the women in the world who turn 18 try stripping just for kicks, or to get some extra money to buy a designer bag. Everybody strips now. Back then, it with the gentlemen's clubs, the classy gentlemen's clubs had just started coming around. So they had gone from biker bars. This was 1985 or 6, January of 86. And so just in the previous couple of years had strip clubs kind of become classy. And so I went to this really classy club here in Austin called Sugars. And but I was so nervous, and my manager like was kind of messing with me, and so he put me on stage right away, knowing that I wouldn't have time to ease into it at all. And I had shoes that I had bought from Goodwill because I couldn't afford like to go to the mall and buy regular stilettos, which were, I think we were at the time like $40 or $45, And so I went to Goodwill and I bought shoes that were too big with these kind of short heels, and so I'm barely able to walk in them. And I was, I knew I had this little lingerie outfit, but my second song, you have to take your top off, right? Or your clothes off.
Yes.
So I don't know.
I beat the scores plenty of times, and believe me, I can't
how it works?
and I can't tell you how many of the strippers were paying to go to college. They were stripping so they can pay for college.
Yeah, it's a lot different than it was. Like when I started, they still had a handful of biker chicks, and then just a bunch of us girls in our 20s. Some of the girls were in college. I was in college. I had gone back to college, like my second year as a stripper. But there was a lot of drugs and drinking, and
you have to get passed by the owner. Is it creepy? Do they say take off your clothes and let me see if you could, if you'll be good for the club?
Oh, I'm sure a lot of places you had to do that. They didn't make me do that.
Oh, okay.
No, they did. I think that if they didn't like what they saw, they just wouldn't have let me come back after my first day. But I have been to clubs where the manager's like, because when I first went back to stripping at 39, I switched clubs from this one Austin club to another at like 41. And I looked good, and my body still looked phenomenal. I had the body of a 25-year-old, but the manager didn't know that. All he knows is that he's got a 41-year-old girl, and he doesn't have any idea what's going on under my blouse. And so he was kind of embarrassed, but he's like, I hate to ask you this, but do you mind if I just get a look at? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I just pulled my top off, and he's like, okay, great. Yeah, you're hired. Anyway, so back in 86, though, I go on stage, I'm shuffling to, I think the DJ put on Stevie Ray Vaughan, but I'm shuffling around the stage, and I glance out at the audience, and everybody is a packed night, and all the dancers and all the customers are just looking at me like, what is going on up here? Because clearly I was the most timid, uncomfortable, awkward human ever on stage. And then on my second song, I take off my little teddy, and I'm trying to both expose my breasts and hide them at the same time. So I'm kind of shuffling around in the shoes that don't fit like this, looking at the floor. And every now and then I'd move my arms, and then I'd put them back. It was a nightmare. And some really sweet dancer grabbed her customer and made him come up and tip me. And then she's like, you're doing great, honey. You're doing great. And then she just kind of let me, after I got off stage, she just let me shadow her for the rest of the night. But it was mortifying. It was trauma inducing. I still to this day remember, I've never been so panicked in my life, and looking out of the audience and seeing everybody just staring at me like a train wreck or a deer.
And this is all going to be in in your new book, right?
That particular incident isn't, because I talk about my 30s. So my first book is about my coke and alcohol, my cocaine addiction, my alcoholism while I was living with Joe Walsh in my 20s. It ends with me getting sober at 29. This book kind of picks up where it left off. So it describes my journey through my 30s, trying to overcome all the issues that a lot of us have when we get sober, which is how to connect with other people, how to overcome intimacy issues, how to connect with other people, how to date, how to have sex, how to do all the things that most people learn in their teens and 20s. That I was doing, when the only time you ever had sex or ever dated or flirted was on coke and alcohol. When you have to do it sober, it's a whole new experience, and you feel like a teenager again. And so you make every mistake in the book, which is basically what I did in my 30s. But it's really all about how to overcome fear of intimacy, how to be authentic, and how to set boundaries, and how to date in a way that's like healthy and effective, and be in a relationship in a way that's healthy and effective, and then be out in the world. I talk a lot about, my journey just through work as a realtor and a stripper, and how to set boundaries in a healthy way. I mean, these are the three keys really of being a mature adult successful human in the world. And that's authenticity, boundaries, and learning how to be vulnerable, meaning open, have an open heart, right? In a healthy way. And so that's kind of what the book is about. It's about how to do all that in sobriety.
Okay, we're going to start. Here comes the questions, Kristin. So
okay,
this is one insulting me, I guess. So Pedro Montes, thanks for the $5. I'm sending you a super chat to help fund your lawsuits. Okay, I'm not right now. Dom Del. See, there you go. I can't see him until I put him up. You don't have to answer that.
I don't have my glasses on. You ever toss Joe's salad? I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, do you ever go down on his butt?
How does tossed salad?
I don't know. It's like a
Like,
prison term.
oh, okay.
Yeah. But again, Kristin,
Let me just say, I'm not gonna get too detailed here. I'm a very sexually open woman. I mean, if it feels good, give it a shot, right? I loved the man. I loved every square inch of his body. I'll put it that way, many times over.
I love Joe Walsh. I mean, he's still to this
Did
day.
you ever toss a salad?
No, I haven't tossed a salad. Don, would you rather make love to me or Don Henley? You better answer right here.
Well, Don's kind of got a bad attitude, and John and I get along well. So, give it.
There you go.
It's a no-brainer.
Grizzly Adams, do you have an OnlyFans?
I don't. I thank you for asking. No, I do not.
Good for you. Good for you. Although you can make a lot of money.
I guess so. Yeah, I get asked a lot. Actually, I get asked that. I don't know, a lot. I get asked that frequently, I think. But and I think it's great that women, or I guess men too, can sort of take control, can do sex work in a way where they're their own boss and all that, and make money and be financially independent that way. I mean, the kind of sex work that I did for a lot of my life was, when I first started stripping, they really controlled everything you did. You couldn't come early or come late and leave early. You couldn't work at different clubs. You couldn't pick your schedule. They took a huge percentage of your income. I mean, in Vegas, I was making $1,000 a day, but they were taking 30% of it, right? So now you can go on OnlyFans and control.
That's YouTube, Kristin.
What's that?
That's what YouTube takes, 30%.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So everything, like that guy's giving me $2. That 30% of that goes to YouTube. It's fucking bullshit.
That's a lot. I think. I don't know, how much does OnlyFans take? I have no idea.
Oh, I don't know. But okay, this is a woman. This is a woman. I can't read what it says, but read slowly. Her name is Sodomy. Miss Kristin. Sado work on protect door for female hooch sack. Door swing shut if bad man. Try force egg roll. Kristin like Sado that idea. She made. I had an Army major on the show, and she had him laughing because she always calls it the hooch sack.
I love nicknames for genitals. Yeah, lay them on. They're all good. Yeah, good luck with that.
Is this you? Are you going to come on? Howard's mentioning you on his November 15th show. I guess Howard has mentioned me. Wow, Davey. Wow, Howard. Could you believe that? Howard actually still mentions me after all all the bridges burned.
Fill me in on what's going on there. I know that there was a lot of tension between you guys a while ago. Did you never make up?
I left Howard. He fucked up. He knew he fucked up because he refused to talk to me when I was trying to tell him. And, and I was a pretty big part of the show. And he knew he lost a good, a very, strong character on the show. And he got so angry, he diverted all his anger towards me at Jay Leno and attacked Jay like crazy. That created all of the Stern fans to hate on me. And it's been very hard. I mean, I got a lot of haters because of that. And then we ended up becoming friends again. I went to his house in Southampton. Everything was cool until my book came out.
Oh.
And much like your book, I can't hold back. I got to be honest.
Yeah. You have a right to be honest.
Authenticity. And I'm going to tell, and I didn't it wasn't a trash Howard book. I said a lot of great things about him. But as you know, there are some negatives that I'm not going to hold back on as well. And that's what it was. I'm waiting for my signed copy of Rock Monster.
Did I may have had my assistant mail it to you. Did you send me your address?
Yeah, I did, but I never got it because is there any part where you talk badly of Joe, or is it all just great about Joe?
I wouldn't say that I talk badly about Joe. But I also wouldn't say it's all great about Joe. I mean, we had our challenges, but the thing is, we were both raging alcoholics and cocaine addicts. So every single fight we had where he could be really hurtful, he could say things that were completely unwarranted, to hurt my feelings. And then one time, it got physical, and he lost control and beat me briefly. But I explain exactly how all that happened. And I don't blame him per se. I basically blame the alcohol and drugs. We were both human, and we both tried really hard. And I got nothing but love for Joe, nothing but love and respect.
Yeah.
I told the truth because I couldn't tell my story about how much my low self-esteem and my self-loathing and low self-respect opened the door for other people to treat me like crap. And when you're in a relationship, if you don't set healthy boundaries and you teach other people how to treat you. I taught Joe how to treat me. I taught Joe how to treat me badly. That was all on me. And I put that in the book. I'm not one of these millennials who's like a perpetual victim. You know, it's not everybody else's fault. You teach people how to treat you, and that's what I showed in the book. And so when Joe lost control, it was something that any human, and it wasn't something that happened like all the time or at the drop of a hat. It was like when
did he hit you? Did he punch you?
There was one time where I kind of beat up him, which is at Sam Kinnison's memorial service. We were tripping our balls off on mushrooms. And because we're at a memorial service, we were having a really bad trip. And so we get back in the limo, and Joe was having such a bad trip that he tried to make my bad trip worse. And he was completely out of his mind on mushrooms. And he didn't know what he was doing. He couldn't really help himself. And I kept telling him to stop, and finally he wouldn't stop. So I flew across. I told him, I said, I'm gonna lose control here. I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm screaming at him to stop, and he wouldn't stop. He kept pushing me. And so I flew across the limo and beat the crap out of him. But I mean, I was like 115 pounds. I had zero, I still can't throw a punch to save my life. I mean, I couldn't hurt a fly, and I didn't hurt him at all. And then a couple years later, when I was severely on crack, my addictions were outpacing his by a lot. And we were on tour with Ringo, and we had a deal, no coke on tour, certainly no crack on tour. And I brought crack on tour.
I saw that show at Jones Beach.
Oh yeah, I love Jones Beach. That was one of my favorite tours ever. Well, this was on Ringo's second tour. His first tour was my favorite Ringo band, but this was on his second tour.
Joe Walsh, it was Billy Preston.
That was his first. Yeah, that was his first Ringo tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Levon Helm and Rick Dango from the band, Billy Preston, Dr. John, Nils Lofgren and Clarence Clemens from the E Street Band, and Jim Keltner also on drums. So they had Ringo and Jim Keltner on drums, and then and Levon Helm on drums and percussion. So
Joe was on that one, right?
And then Joe, it was incredible. It was incredible. Every night of that tour was phenomenal. But anyway, so yeah, Joe lost control one night on Ringo's second tour and beat me up, and it lasted.
Are you talking like black and blue marks kind of beat up?
He didn't break anything, but yeah, it was a little black and blue. Yeah.
Oh wow, geez.
A little. Yeah.
I can't imagine it because he's such a passive, like.
Listen, I bet everything I own that he'd never done that before and never done it since. He was terrified. I was pushing. I mean, I'm not going to say any woman deserves to be hit, but you're talking about drug addicts and alcoholics who don't have complete control over their emotions, and you push you're mentally ill. We were literally mentally ill, right? And so you push a mentally ill person.
Hold on, Kristin. I'm just going to do a disclaimer here. No one condones any kind of violence or anything, but like Kristin is saying, under the influence of drugs, it could sometimes bring out the worst in people. Is that?
Yes, very well said. Thank you.
Grizzly Adams, do you have pierced areolas?
No, gross. No, I don't want to put down anybody else's body, but I get wigged out by that. No.
And David Cakes, this is something very nice for you. Thanks for the $5. This woman is absolutely gorgeous. I agree. Wow, newest reason to invent time travel. Woman dancing.
Thank you. That is a really sweet compliment.
I really, and I'm not. Listen, I know you have a boyfriend, so for all you idiots who can accuse me of hitting on her, I'm not hitting on her. But you are very, very pretty. I mean, God, I hung out with you in 1993.
Yeah.
And I'm not lying when I say you look better now.
Thank you.
And not like you didn't look great then.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know how it all works, but I feel physically better than I ever have in my life, which is crazy because I've been around a while. So
yeah, and Hold on. Hey, Johnny boy, time to get a glaze touch up. Oh yeah, my hair's going gray again. I got to get my little glazing. It's the masculine. It's called flashback. You know, you just kind of blend out the grays.
Yeah. A little gray is not. A little gray is sexy.
Dick 89. I knew it was going to happen. No joke. You're a dang good looking woman.
Thank you, Ditka.
No, he's a good guy. And, you know, no, I know. And like everybody, even my enemies were saying, John, Kristin is your best guest.
Aww.
You guys have incredible chemistry.
We have a nice rapport. I thought so too. I've done 100 interviews in the last 5 years, and yours is just very. I just feel I get nervous doing interviews, but with you, I'm always perfectly relaxed. So we have a good.
And you should be because we're just two old friends.
Yeah,
you know, chewing the shit. You know,
yeah.
But it's funny you had that same experience with Don Henley because a lot of people have. I mean, I don't know what the hell is he so angry about?
I don't know, but everybody I know who meets Don or knows him like a little bit, or they all say the same thing. Like he can be super nice one guy and Mr. Hyde the next. And I don't know if maybe he's bipolar. I don't know. I shouldn't say that because I don't want to attribute some sort of mental problem to him. But that was my experience with him. Like he never knew.
Also extremely cheap.
Super mean. Oh yeah, I've heard that too.
And you know, I'll tell you, I'm sure you watched it. The Eagles documentary by far is the best documentary ever.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you could tell like Don and Glenn are the antagonists. And like Joe and Felder and Timothy B. Schmidt and Randy Meisner are like the cool ones.
Yeah.
But Don and Glenn seem to be like, you know, like always having problems with everybody. You know?
Joe used to call the Eagles something like democracy with two dictators.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect.
He also used to call them behind their backs. He used to call them, and he almost never said anything negative about those guys. They were his brothers, right? Like they had their issues, but he had a lot of love and respect for him. But he did jokingly call them the egos behind their backs. Yeah.
The what?
The egos.
Oh, the egos. But you can tell because when Joe, first of all, Kristin, and I did want to ask you, so just I want to ask you what Joe's his favorite song that he ever wrote was. So just tell me, I mean, you know, because he's written, I have tons of favorite. I mean, I could name off the top of my head 10. Did he ever say this was my best like song like that I'm so proud of?
You know, I think he actually did, and I couldn't tell you what it is. If it comes to me, I'll let you know.
Is it Life's Been Good?
I don't think actually what I think he said about Life's Been Good, or maybe it was Funk 49. He said this about one of them. This is probably Funk 49. He said, and jokingly, he said, if I ever knew I'd have to play that song so much, I never would have written it. But he didn't mean that because obviously those are two of his fans' favorites, and they're both just absolutely incredible songs. But I can tell you this. I know that he told me what his favorite song of his was. I can't tell you what it was, but it wasn't one of his big hits. It was one of his, it might've been like not Rosewood Bitters, but it was something, one of his lesser known.
Turn to Stone?
Turn to Stone is probably my favorite.
Or could it be The Confessor? In the eyes of the confessor.
If he had told me that was his favorite, I think I would have remembered it, but I could be wrong. I would hate to say I think that
Rocky Mountain Way
wrong and then be wrong. So yeah, I just can't remember.
Is it Rocky Mountain Way?
No, because that would have been one of his big hits. And I remember it being one of his lesser known songs that was one of his favorites of his own.
All right, I'm gonna try two more and I'll leave you alone on this. Is it one of my favorites from There Goes the Neighborhood, which is Living a Life of Illusion?
Oh, that's a great one. I don't think it was that one though.
And then two more. In the City?
No, I don't think it was that one either, because that would have been one of his bigger ones.
Then When the Rivers Run Dry. I'm gonna wait until the rivers run dry.
It could have been that one.
Till the rivers run dry. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
You can tell. Well, that's why it was so like amazing that he said yes, that he would write a song with me.
Yeah.
I was just like, holy fuck, I'm gonna actually write and jam with one of my idols. I mean, who gets that opportunity, Kristin?
You know, I can't speak for him, but I can tell you this: Joe was very guarded around people that he might be perfectly good people, but people that he just felt he had reason to be guarded around. And a lot of that was